That's another thing. I believe that's a human fundamental right for us to choose our own food.
Right, I do too. Yeah, I mean that's a big issue. The whole fertility rate. They're saying now that it might only be a few decades until basically men are gone from the planet. If some of these rates continue at what they are now, well, what is causing that? There's also been some suggestion that even the bee die-off could be a result of pollens or whatever that are migrating from genetically modified crops.
Very interesting. So you mentioned I Am Legend, and that definitely was an interesting film. So was Gattaca, and it's basically this premise of a designer baby.
Right.
Hey, look, we can take a look at your baby's DNA, since we have these wonderful DNA databases, and we'll just eliminate and tinker with a few genes so we make sure that your child lives a little bit longer. But when it comes to the end of the day, those with the better genes get the better jobs, hence the better incomes.
Right.
Do you think the future might potentially be going this route?
Oh, I do. And in fact, I've debated James Hughes, for instance, on this issue on his own radio show, that it is going to lead to some of what eugenics was hoping to do. And you're trying to lead to an Ubermensch, create a superior man. That's the goal. That's the ambition of transhumanism. And so they write about it from a democratic point of view. That's why his lecture, Professor Max Melham, was talking about transhumanism in the future of democracy, because they're saying we've got to make sure that we don't have inequities. That everybody's going to have some socialized Obama-type version of transhuman medicine in the future, so that everybody gets, some of the basic, benefits of transhumanism. But we know that those who have power, who have influence, who have money, who have authority, they're always going to be the ones who have more of the benefits of human enhancement in this case. And so where you already have a gap right now, that gap is going to dramatically be inflated between the haves and have-nots. But in this case, it's going to be extrapolated to an entirely different level. I mean, if you're a CEO, you own a corporation, and you're trying to remain competitive in the marketplace, and you're competing with CEOs out there who have brain-machine interfacing, they've been enhanced, they can plug themselves in the matrix, they can think, they can process data at 1 billion times faster than us naturals, you know what I mean? And you're trying to stay competitive. Who are you going to hire? That's going to be the future marketplace. Now, imagine the same thing with kids going to school. There are those who want to maintain their humanity for whatever reasons. It might not even be religious reasons. And now these kids go to school. They're always under enormous pressure anyway, especially in grade school, to want to be accepted, to want to be part. And there's the cheerleading squad or whatever, and you want to be a part of it. Now imagine what it's going to mean for these future children who are trying to go into some kind of a public education system, and you have the enhanced and the non-enhanced, and there is going to be no way the non-enhanced can compete. So now they're bringing all this pressure home, and the parents who are trying to maintain their humanity are having to deal with this. It's a nightmarish, Gattaca-like future world that is going to develop. And let me say one other thing. Even some of the transhumanists are saying this. There is a really well-known transhumanist by the name of Hugo de Garis. And de Garis has been doing research for several decades in both publicly and privately funded laboratories, working on the creation of an artificial mind, an artificial brain, something kind of like the Blue Brain Project.
Right.
But he wrote a book called The Artilect Wars, Cosmos versus Terrans. And this book reads almost like it's out of the pages of an apocalyptic piece of scripture somewhere about the Armageddon, if you will, because he's a singularitarian, so he believes, like I do, that if there isn't some intervention somehow, the Earth gets hit by an asteroid or maybe divine intervention or something that stops this, eventually we're going to reach strong artificial intelligence. And when we do, this mind is going to accumulate quickly. All known knowledge, everything that's ever been contributed to every piece of written literature that has been computerized and can be fed into this thing. And Ray Kurzweil's The Age of Thinking Machines is going to start. This thing will think and process data trillions of times faster than anything we know now.
Right.
That the upside, if you're a Kurzweil utopian, the upside is the very near future is going to see the eradication of disease, the vast extension of lifespans, a la Abra de Grey and the Methuselah Foundation, and we're all going to live in a happy, happy, joy, joy world.
A happy, sterile environment.
Yeah, happy, well, and by the way, it's interesting you mentioned that, Because they not only want to extend life, but they say, well, you know, there's people that would say right now, I don't want to live to be 1,000 years old. Holy smokes, you know, I'm already getting sick of being here. So I'll just take my natural lifespan. Thank you very much. So those transhumanists respond back, oh yes, but we're going to help you with that, because we're through neurosciences, we're learning that the portion of the brain that leads to depression also leads to euphoria, and we're going to learn how to stimulate that, so you'll just be a happy little automaton out there singing little songs and skipping around in the flowers. And
this certainly sounds like some sort of a de facto deal with the devil.
it is.
It sounds good on paper. Hey, we're going to do this, this, and this for you. But if they cared about us so much, why are they poisoning our food, our water, and our air? It just doesn't add up if they really cared about us.
Yeah, well, that's the corporations, and they don't care about you whatsoever. You know, there have been even academic studies that have been done in the last few years that have verified that maybe only 6,000 to 7,000 people in the world actually control the flow of power and revenue. And I don't think, Alex, with all respect, that those people care much about what happens to you or me. To finish what I was saying about Hugo de Garis, he's saying that when the artilects, and this is a term of his invention, artilect, artificial intellect, when it comes online, it's not only going to solve our problems, it's going to start realizing that the earth only has so many resources. And if you start vastly expanding life and curing people of disease, it's not going to take very long unless you sterilize people. It's not going to take very long till you either have to expand China's 1 or 0 child policy, or as in Gattaca, you got to get some kind of a license to have a genetic offspring, or you have to move out into the cosmos. And in Hugo de Garis's mind, this same intellect will, of course, quickly resolve other technological issues related to space travel, colonization, the terraforming, let's say, of moons, whatever, and that it will make sense. Leave the earth to the humans if that's what they want, but us cosmos, that's his other term he invents, these enhanced humans want to move off-world. However, he also makes a good argument that the Terrans, meaning terra, of the earth, terrestrial, the Terrans who want to maintain their humanity, don't want to leave the earth and come into conflict with the plan of the cosmos and the artilects. And what Hugo says is that before the end of the 21st century, strong artificial intelligence will put into play a scenario that's going to develop into the next world war and will literally lead to the death of billions of humans before the end of the 21st century. So talk about movies. I mean, this sounds like something right out of the next Terminator.
Well, and it's backed up by mainstream news. For example, in Israel, they have set up their own, they're working on setting up their own artificial intelligence missile defense shield. I'm sure Israel is not the only country. So when the stress of war becomes too great, the machine takes over and the war continues to go on through the dark of night and through the light of day. It's a very frightening type of a future we're looking at. But I agree with what you had said earlier about the potential for this happening unless there's some sort of a cataclysmic event or divine intervention to stop this from happening. Unless that happens, I do see us moving along this. I don't see anything stopping at this point.
Well, and it will and the issue is the world is not ready for it, because if technological singularity actually happens, and we're already using artificial intelligence, even Google uses artificial intelligence. It's just not yet strong artificial intelligence. But when that happens and a synthetic mind comes online, it will literally change things overnight. Overnight, within 1 week maybe. Everything we know will be being changed in terms of everything. Government policy, I think it will immediately lead to a police state, because we will suddenly be faced with a threat that is so beyond our comprehension that we'll be paralyzed with what do we do with this thing now? And if people think that's an exaggeration, the highest think tank at the Pentagon, the Jasons, are concerned about this. There was an article just recently called Jasons Fear Brain-Modified Foes, and they were talking about transhumanism, artificial intelligence, saying that this is the next arms race. That what the Soviet Union and the United States at one time were doing in the buildup of nuclear weapons, the Jasons are saying it's not a matter of whether we think it's ethical to start altering ourselves and enhancing ourselves and building artificial intelligence. We don't have a choice, because if we don't develop it, if we don't get ahead of it, somebody else will. Our enemies will, and then